All right. Do we have sound? Do we have sound? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, let me know that you can hear me. I hope I got sound. Do I have sound? All right, we're cooking with grease now. I'm sorry about that. Hey, thank y'all so much. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, I hope you were in the building yesterday. I really do hope you were blessed yesterday being in the building, watching us online. Hey, listen, I keep telling you, you cannot, it's great to watch online, but being in person, listen, that's a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother story being in the room. And I get it. You can't due to distance. Maybe you're in a whole other state. But if you're in a 50-mile radius, I can't stress enough that this weekend, this upcoming weekend, do everything. Rearrange your schedule. Make sure you can get into the building to be a part. Yesterday, we started talking about David, and we talked about how David fought Goliath. Everybody says it's a cute story. David goes to take his brother's lunch, and here for weeks, and literally, if you understand the backdrop, for weeks, the Philistine army and the Israelites were camped just looking at each other. Nobody's making a move, nobody's doing anything. And finally, the Philistine army sends out their warrior. They send out a warrior called Goliath. Uh, you heard the story. David goes over, says, "Hey, I'll fight him." King Saul didn't really want David to fight him, but he says, "All right, I'll let you fight him. I'm gonna give you my armor, so at least you can look like a soldier." He literally did not want King Saul's armor. He says, "Hey, I don't need that. That's for you. I can't fit that." Let me put this in because I'll feel better. I can maybe hear you better. Hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me better. So he literally says, "Hey, I don't want to put that armor on." Um, he doesn't put Saul's armor on. He ends up taking it off. He goes out to fight Goliath, and Goliath says, "Am I a dog that you should send like somebody like David out? Won't you come closer and let's fight? And I'll feed your I'll feed your flesh to the birds." Well, we know the story. David kills Goliath, and so ends the story. David goes on to the next challenge. But I want to talk to you this morning because so many of us think that David was the underdog. And you really need to hear what I'm getting ready to tell you because it's really going to bless your life. We always said David was the underdog. David was small. He was compared to Goliath. Goliath is 9 feet tall. He's wearing armor that's 125 pounds. So you got to know he's a big dude, right? David is this small shepherd boy. And what we don't understand is that in ancient times, warriors, ancient armies had three kinds of warriors. Ancient armies had three kinds of warriors. And so they were people who rode in chariots. They had the chariots where you see in Rome, during the games, they rode in chariots. Then there were people who had heavy infantry. Those were the foot soldiers wearing body armor and carrying spears and swords. And then they had artillery, and those who had bow and arrows. People who had bow and arrows, and they had people who were what's called slingers. Put that in the chat. Would you put that in the chat? They're called slingers. I hope I'm coming through. I don't see anybody. Maybe I'm not coming through. I want to make sure that I'm coming through today. If I'm not coming through, please let me know because I don't want you to miss this story. This lesson is too valuable for you to miss today. All right. If I'm not coming through, I want to make sure that this is loud and clear on today. Am I coming through? You're good. All right. And so there's something called slingers. And so the slingers, thank you. All right, she's saying we can hear you. Thank you. There's something called slingers. Slingers. Type that in the chat. Slingers. Slingers were people who were trained to use a sling. David never had a slingshot, What we taught this all wrong. We taught that David had a slingshot, but David never had a slingshot. That's a child's toy. David never had a little slingshot with a rope that he put a rock in it and pulled back and let it go and it just hits. No, that's not what David had. And I'm giving you a valuable lesson today. David never had a slingshot. He was a slinger. Yeah, a sling, but a sling, which is a far more deadly weapon. An experienced slinger, what he would do was he would rotate. He would put a rock in a piece of cloth that was tied, and so they would turn it around so fast. And the goal was it was two pieces of leather. He would let one piece of leather go, and it would catapult the other end, the other piece of he would let one go and one he'd be holding, because if he let both of them go, of course, it's just all going to leave his hands. But as a slinger, he have that piece of rock in the middle, and a piece of cloth tied. There were two strings of leather. He would swing it so fast, literally, it would. If you do the math, the rock would travel 35 meters per second. So literally, as he did it around, he would let one piece of leather go while holding the other piece of leather to strategically hit his target. Which meant that the moment that Goliath was really trying to get himself together, in 1 second, it hit him in the head. So 1 second Goliath is talking, the next second he's he's dead, literally just that fast. Before Goliath knew what was happening, it was hitting him in the forehead. The rock David used is called barium sulfite. Barium sulfite. I need you to catch this. Barium sulfite. That rock had a stopping power that was equivalent to a 45 caliber gun, caliber handgun. It had that stopping power. So slingers were incredibly accurate. Yeah, a slinger could hit a bird in flight. Yeah, with that sling, they could hit a bird that was already in flight so accurate that bird, it would literally kill that bird instantly. They were accurate slingers. So slingers were used against heavy infantry. Yeah, Goliath says, "Come to me that I may feed your flesh to the birds." Goliath was really saying, "I need you to come because I got all this armor on me. I've got a sword." I told you there are three types, right? I told you there were three types. There were people who rode in chariots. They were heavy infantry. Those were the foot soldiers wearing body armor, and they were carrying swords and shields, right? So Goliath has all this armor on, and Goliath has a sword and a shield, right? David says, "You come at me with sword and shield. I come at you in the name of the Lord." David had a sling and he had God. David was not the underdog. I need you to put that in the chat. I'm not the underdog. Why do you say that I'm not the underdog? Why do you say that, Pastor Bishop? Because you're going against a guy who's 9 feet tall, who has 125 pounds of armor on him. So you are the underdog. I beg to differ. David says Goliath was looking for hand-to-hand combat. David changed the rules without telling his opponent. And David changed the rules without telling his opponent and destroyed him. Because the Bible says, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, are not average, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." I got to put this up because I got to get out of here. David changed the game without telling his enemy, because his enemy was accustomed to one direction. Whenever you deal with God, you might have dealt with God one way and you say, "I always know how God's going to function. God's going to always come through this way. He's going to always do it that way." But God is multifaceted, which means that you cannot pinpoint God, because when you think you pinpointed God, he'll change directions. He'll come a different direction. He'll do it differently. The enemy always thinks he's pinpointed your movements, not realizing that when you have the Spirit of God internally, you have the capacity to change the game up and destroy your enemy. He knows that when he hits you hard, you're going to go cry. You're going to call about 50 people. He know you're going to do this. He know you're going to function that way. And he's got you down to an art. You know what? Type in the chat, he thinks you're predictable. But I need you to say, I'm not predictable. See, being predictable means I know how you're going to function. But David was not predictable. This is so rich this morning. My God, this is rich. God wanted me to come on this devotional today to tell you it's time to change the game up. Type, I'm not predictable. It's time for you to change the game. See, as long as the enemy knows how you're going to move, he knows what you're going to do because you do it every Monday, you do it every Tuesday, you do it every Wednesday, you do it every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, you get your check. Friday evening, you don't went to the liquor store, you don't went to this place, you don't went to the club, you don't went and did all of this. He knows all of it by Sunday. You broke. He know. Listen, how do I know? Because that used to be me. That used to be me. But whenever you really tap into God and let God change your strategy, I need you to catch this. This season of your life, I got a different strategy. Yeah, I'm not predictable. The enemy won't be able to pinpoint. They say they said you're too radical. What that means is when they say you're too radical, it means we can never predict your actions. You don't act accordingly to how we normally know things functioning. Wow. We getting ready to change the game. Somebody type in the chat, I'm about to change the game. Yeah, me and God, we're about to change the game. And so for you to keep saying David was an underdog, he was never an underdog. That means you didn't read that right. David was never an underdog. David was the big dog. Goliath just had stature, but he did not know that David was bigger than what he looked. Not only was David the big dog, he was underestimated. That's why he says, David said, I ain't no fool. I'm not getting ready to come and pick up no sword and you are a skilled warrior. I give you that. I know that about you. You skilled. You know what you're doing. So David said, why would I fight fair? I'm going to fight godly. Y'all not talking to me. Y'all not talking. And this is too rich for you to be quiet. David says, no problem. You got the sword. You come at me with a sword and shield. All I got is a sling and I got God. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I got a sling and God. Because if I say all I got, that means I don't know if this is going to work. That means I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. I'm not putting myself at a disadvantage. You're the one at a disadvantage. David's, I told you, he swings that sling 35 meters per second, 6 or 7 times. Do you know how fast that is? And he releases it. That stone traveled so fast. Goliath was talking, you're not going to, and he was out. Did y'all catch that? Yeah, you come at me with am I a dog? You come on here so I can. And Goliath, last words. Can I tell you this week? Give your enemies his last rites. Give him his last words quickly. That's why God in Acts says, and suddenly the Holy Spirit showed up. Suddenly, there's a suddenly that's going to happen. Why? Because the enemy is not going to see you coming. He ain't going to see this happening. It's going to happen so fast, he ain't even going to see this happening. They're going to say, what happened? He said, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. 35 meters per second. Somebody put 35 per second. 35 meters per second. That means in 1 second, he was talking. The next second, he was gone. Can I say this to you? And I pray you receive this as we get ready to leave you this morning. Change the game. This week, do it different. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Tanoa. Somebody put surprise. Somebody just type in the chat, surprise. Yeah. You didn't think I was going to do it like this. You know what? One moment you thought I was just an average Joe, but God turned my life around. You thought I was just a plain old worker, didn't realize that I was God's person on the job. Surprise. How did you get that job? Surprise. How did you get that raise? Surprise. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting you. Surprise. Changing the game. That's what we're doing this season. We're changing the game. I'm not the underdog. No, we're changing the game. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed today. All right, I got to go. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope this was a blessing to you today. Have an amazing weekend. Go out, change the game, y'all. And I'll see you on tomorrow. Bye-bye.